Hey, how's it going everyone? Here today with a bit of a special video, and that is a mini. I'll keep it as a mini review for Guts from the hit series Berserk. The reason why I do say mini is because this isn't actually mine. I'm picking this up for my mate, and he's been very kind to let me open it up. So I won't open up everything. I'll leave a plastic on there. I'll probably leave a cape in the packaging as well. You know, because part of the joy when getting your figure is opening it up for yourself, peeling off those little bits of plastic, and taking the tape off, popping everything out, and setting it all up. So I'll leave those little bits of joy to him. But the main things we'll be covering is what he comes with finish, have a little bit look at the articulation, and yeah, that'll be basically just a nice little simple look at this release, because I know it is very hyped, and especially after it's been a long time since had Berserkers. I remember back in the early 2000s you get lots of statues, lots of figures, and everyone was jumping on them. Then you didn't really get anything for ages. A little sprinkling here and there of Figma, but in terms of articulated figures, this is basically the first one in a long time, and he is looking good. But yeah, the box itself is huge. For a bit of a comparison there, here is the same Raised on Earth Goku box. Huge difference in the height and the thickness as well. But 1.5 times thicker than the Goku box here. So huge box. They have arranged everything in here in a unique way, which we'll get a look at shortly. But on the back we do have a nice selection of images showcasing his badass sword, gun, crossbow, and the detailing on the figure as well. He does come with a couple of faces, which we'll get a closer look at in a moment. So for now, let's pop him out of the box and we'll check out what he does come with. So before we do check out the actual contents of the figure, I do want to point out that the back cover in the box is really cool. I'm not sure of the pronunciation. Beirut? Please let me know in the comments below the correct spelling for these, but they are little bit items in the series, and there is one that comes with Guts, which is really cool. But the inner packaging, the design is really nice, which is a pretty cool backdrop for the figure itself for display purposes. So coming over to the figure itself, we have Guts above along with the accessories below it. So that is the reason why this box is really tall opposed to going wide, which is quite a unique setup which we don't see often. Down the side we do have his awesome big sword, which has some lovely texture on it as well. Then we have a dagger which will attach to his belt, and then he has the green beret. Sorry, I really don't know how to pronounce it. I should have looked it up actually, but anyway, he does come with the green one. I know a lot of people are wondering why it's not red. Well, the red one is actually for Griff, and the green one comes later in the series for Guts himself. Now, below we do have the handle for the crossbow, which will slot in the back of him. And then we have the crossbow itself, the gun, wrist gun as well. Along with the two additional faces, we have a neutral face on him, full-on screaming one, and the teeth gritting face. We then also have two pairs of hands. I believe one is just a closed fist, and the other one is designed to hold the weapon. So really cool there. A nice little selection of items that go well with the figure. Now, you might have seen already, but he does come with a beautiful cloth cape. I won't actually pop it out of the packaging, but we'll get a little bit closer look at it, at least through that. But it does have a nice wire in there, and it does have some nice tattering on it too, so it looks really cool. A bit more rare for Tamashii to do cloth cape, so really nice that this figure does come with one. But yeah, let's pop him out of the actual packaging, chuck him on the turntable, and we can take a close look at that finish. Okay, so Guts is spinning on the turntable, and straight away you'll be able to see the fine detail on this figure. All the colouring from the natural brown leather to the silver around the buckles, the handles for his blades, the skin colouring, with the weathering as well, the darker, kind of greyish colour for the wrapping, and then again for the armour with a deep darker charcoaly look with the softer metal look on top of that, and everything is layered beautifully, and with all the extra depth and detail and all those little rivets and folds in the armour, it just captures the light beautifully to give a lot of nice depth and detail to this release. So yeah, even in like on the face, the colouring as well matches well with the arm, and then the hair as well, those little grey or white fringe parts as well, and everything there is looking great. Yeah, even little wee folds in the back, all these little details are really nice on this release. So they definitely went all out with the sculpting, and at least for the visual aspect for this figure. Now that can also be seen on his sword, which has some lovely texture right down the centre. Even on the blade itself is great. We have a little wee metal wire chain there as well, which is great. And then the wrapping is beautiful as well. Now the tip for this will pop off like so, and that will allow you to slot it through his hand. So definitely nice and easy to attach to him, which will be good, and we can take a closer look at that a little bit later in the video. Now speaking of details, we have the awesome little wee crossbow here. So we have a little bit of lever, the wires got white, there's brown and greys and all sorts of colours in here, which is great. So I think this thing could be quite delicate, so do be careful and take your time when switching parts, because this is connected on two little pegs which can lift up, and then you slot on the hand in here, which will then grip on to the crossbow itself, and then you can slot it onto his arm. So really cool, but definitely quite delicate due to all the tiny detailed parts on this. The other great accessory we get is that, the wrist cannon, which is great, with the hand bent all the way down. Again, we can just pop off his arm and we can slot this on. So we'll have a little bit look at that a little bit later in the video as well. We also have this cool little wee handle here for that crossbow, I believe, which will then slot into the back of Guts. So we can just slot it in here like so to complete the base look, which is awesome. Now I do want to apologise, I'm not going to be taking this out, but I will leave it for my friend. But I do want to try and get a little bit of a close look at that cape with the lovely kind of light grey, dark grey colours weaving its way all the way down through the cloak with the tattered edges, which is really nice. And there is a wire that runs through this, so you can bend it around so you can give it a nice dynamic look. And for when you want to actually attach the cloak, the front part of its armour will come off, and that will reveal a little wee hook here. So you pop the head off, and then underneath you hook it onto the cape, fold it down over, and then you clamp this back on to complete the look. So really cool. A little bit fiddly the first time you do it, but once you've switched it on and off a couple of times, it will get easier, which is nice. But yeah, overall looks really cool and seamless. Now one extra detail I do want to highlight before we jump into some articulation is on the back of his neck. It does have that tattoo on the right side of his neck with some fine detailing and the red colouring in the centre as well, which looks really nice. I know a lot of people were surprised to see this in the recent Instagram video as well, and yeah, definitely in person the detailing is crazy for this figure. So coming over to the articulation now, I have removed the front piece of his arm just to make it a little bit easier, but the forward motion of the head is nice, and then going back is really good as well. You can definitely look up, which is great, and again for the left and right motion and on the angles, and everything does feel really nice and smooth for the head so far. Now the shoulder design, this is something that's a little bit more of an older design due to the large flat area, but the armour parts will move individually as well, so you can angle around to, complement the pose that you're going for to hide the joint. But everything does move freely and does feel really nice, which is good. Though, I mean, compared to some more recent figures, maybe articulation can be a little bit more limited depending on the angle that you want to go for. But in saying that, for the types of poses you want to get with Guts here, especially holding the sword, it definitely is ample. And then the elbow joint is nice as well, so it can reach around quite far. Now the wrist peak here is, your standard one, so we do get a nice range of motion. It might be a little bit hard to see, but if we move the armour out of the way a little bit, he does have the bicep swivel as well, if you were wondering about that. Again, his right arm, even though it does have the arm in there, which looks really cool, he does have a decent range of motion, and then again with the wrist peg as well. So normal kind of wrist peg on this hand, even though it does have that more of a metallic-y look to it compared to the normal wrist peg. That popped out. Anyway, for the change of arm, we can just grip on this and this will slot off. and that will then allow us to switch the arm parts over. So we can slot on his wrist cannon like so. And we can slot on. So definitely really nice and versatile there. Now coming down to the mid region, we have really nice swivel. The lower part will move as well, but since I have left it placed on, it is going to be a little bit more restricted at this point. But we do get a bit of motion down there as well. Now going forward and back, forward motion definitely is a little bit more limited due to all of the armor design. Going back, he does get, you know, maybe 5 to 10 mil of motion there, so not too bad. The satchel on the back and then the holder here will kind of hinder that motion a little bit. But all of these, they do swivel and move individually, which is nice. And, but we do have a little peg hole here, and that will line up with the dagger, which will slot on like so. So once you get them into the right pose, you can slot on, and it looks really badass. Look, I'll leave it off for now so it doesn't get in the way of our articulation check. Now coming down to the hip and thigh area, everything here will move quite nice. We get a little bit of left and right motion as well, and going forward and back. Though due to the shape and design of armor, he does get hindered a little bit going back and forward, though these parts are a little bit soft, so over time I think he's the type of thing that might loosen up and you get a bit more motion. And you can definitely push it a lot further if you want, especially once you've kind of learnt the limits of the figure. The front part here is actually hard, so that won't move out of the way, but the two butt flaps are softer plastic. Same with the daggers and the knee guard as well. These are soft, so they don't really get in the way, and the knee articulation is really nice. Now coming down to the ankle, again this one is really nice, a good range of motion, and then the toe tip point is good as well. So overall, for the most part, the articulation is pretty good, and considering the size and design of armor, it's a little bit, you know, it's to be expected that it'll be a bit more limited, but you know, after you kind of learn which parts to twist and turn, you can definitely move them, you know, quite a bit further than what you'd expect, though depending on angle it may look a little bit weird. Just knocked off a section there, so yeah, these ones are on their own individual pegs and they can pop off. So if they are in the way, you can always pop them off to get a bit more range on them. Now since this is my friend's one, I won't push this figure to the extremes this time, but overall I believe you should get a good idea of his range of articulation. So coming for a close look at these faces, this is the base neutral one, and yeah, you can see all the scarring and detailing on it, which is really nice, especially on the chin there, which is great. And you know, the red eye in there is really cool, so the detailing on this is really nice, and you know, it kind of matches the rest of the figure, which is great. And to change the head, it's really easy. You can just pop this off. Now once you've got the head off, which I don't believe you have to do every time, but is what you need to do if you are changing the cape, you can just pop the faceplate off anyway, and then slot the new one on like so. And once you've got the faceplate on, you can just slot it back onto that peg. The second face here is awesome. I love that screaming look, the full of mouth, wide open, teeth showing, tongue in there. Again, all the colouring is lovely, and that scar on his chin is coming through beautifully. You know, probably my favourite of the faces, just the amount of emotion and anger coming through is awesome. And the final face is that teeth gritting one, and again this is awesome. A nice amount of detailing coming through with that teeth, and obviously the scars on his face as well. Really cool. I love the three faces that this figure comes with, but definitely drop a comment below in the comments for which one is your favourite. One thing that is definitely awesome about this figure is that he can hold his sword in one arm. The sword is decently light, and the joint on the shoulder is good enough to hold it up. Though in saying that, due to all that weight being out front, he will fall down if you don't have a stand holding him up, or maybe you can do a bit more of a dynamic kind of posing where he has that one leg out front to kind of counter the extra weight on the front. But something along those lines, we'll kind of have to hold it in a little bit just because the pose isn't very good, but you kind of get a good idea of what he can do, which is great. Okay, so I've got Guts here on the turntable along with all his accessories, and he's holding a little bit green Barrett? Oh man, I will never get the name of that right. But anyway, he's holding that, he's holding the sword, looking badass. We have the, bow handle tucked away in his satchel on the back. The dagger down here is one that wore attached to the front of his belt, but at the moment the plastic is in the way. He does come with the 2 additional hands as we saw earlier, one for holding the sword, one for gripping onto the crossbow as well. Then we also have the hand cannon, and then the 2 other face plates, so we do have the teeth gritting on them still, and you have the full mouth shouting, the basic one there. You know, the cape is currently in the packaging, but he does come with a decent amount of stuff, which is really cool. Now, while I don't have a cape set up on him at the moment, that is in the packaging, but you know, if you chuck the cape on, have it flowing, you can get some really cool dynamic poses from this figure, even if so coming to the pros and cons here, so even if the articulation is a little more limited in the lower range, he does make up for it with great articulation of arms. The fact that his arm can hold the sword out, which is amazing, and you know, the knee and ankle articulation is great as well. The way the arm pops off, you can switch out the crossbow is really cool, though it's not a con per se, but definitely a huge caution point. Be careful with this, because I feel like that could, if you put too much pressure one way or another, it could lead to breakages, since it is so finely detailed. Or, you know, and speaking of detailing, that is definitely a huge pro of this figure. The satchel, all the colouring, the crimping around the bag, and all the armour detailing as well is amazing. So if you are a Berserk fan, this is a must. And for myself, I haven't watched Berserk, I haven't read it. It is on my to-read list one day. But I do know about this because my best mate, he's really into Berserk, so he's told me all about it. So I'm somewhat familiar. But yeah, despite the fact that I haven't seen this, haven't read it, even I really want this figure. I'm really tempted to go pick him up, and Griff as well. Maybe though, I might just wait for the second one, the Berserker armor version with a full-on helmet, that red eye. Maybe I would pick up that one for Guts and grab Griff and that horse, Griffith. Yeah, so that would be really cool. So yeah, definitely, it's a nice change to see Tamashii move a little bit out of their comfort zone, I would say. You know, they've been doing the Sentai stuff, you know, Kamen Rider for ages, the Shonen stuff with Dragon Ball, and I mean, the last year, they've gone hard on Shonen Jump stuff. So it's interesting to see something that isn't from Shonen Jump, but still anime, something a bit more of a targeted towards older people. And yeah, Berserk is definitely a great place to start. I hope we get more figures from, you know, classic series, which were a bit more nitty gritty and more adult orientated compared to normal Jump stuff. So yeah, overall that's it for this little mini review. I hope you enjoyed. So I can go into the full-on detail for all the articulation and set up the cape, but this should at least give you a good look at what the figure comes with, how he looks, and you know, the overall basic movement. So yeah, if you are getting this figure, drop a comment below. If you're not, let me know why. I'm curious why you're passing. Is it just because you've been buying way too much stuff this year? I know that's why I kind of initially passed way too many releases so far, so I do have to try and cut back myself. So is that the main reason, or is it because you don't know about Berserk? But after seeing this, you definitely want to jump on him. Because I know, at least for me, getting my hands on him, oh, I really do want to get him. I'm not sure how well I'll be able to hold out for. But yeah, anyway, again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, cheers!